So recently I did a video on the best TLC Ark teams, and I was very surprised by a lot of comments in the video. And considering, I only released this video like 3 days ago as I'm recording this, 4 days ago as you're seeing this video, it's surprising the response which I got from it, because it's very different from previous TLC videos which I'd done in the past. And the reason for this, I guess, is because the general opinion is very, very split now with ASA and ASE players and the modding community, with mods like Ark Paleo being a thing and the Paleo Giga and whatnot. And there's this big debate of whether the TLC is for the developer or is it for the modders to do these days. As a lot of people are saying, well, Wildcard is never going to TLC any more creatures. It's been ages since TLC Pass 3. We're not going to see anything more. But frankly, in my opinion, I think it should be down to them. And the reasons why I want to put it down to Wildcard, I'll give opinions for both arguments here, but I'm going to start with Wildcard. And why I think they should TLC is, firstly, it is their game after all, and some of the creatures and things get outdated, and over time you might want to update them, and there's a lot of creatures in the game which are in serious need of some updating, and a TLC Pass 4 could be extremely useful. It also breathes perhaps a little bit more life into ASA as well, perhaps convert even more people over, and it's not too much work compared to a lot of other options which perhaps will be available to them, like, more maps getting released. These TLCs could come out way more frequently and give players a lot more life while they're doing it, of course, because ultimately ASA is a little bit lackluster when it comes to the updates, and obviously Ark was as well. I don't want there to be like a literal update like every month or so, or whatever, or like every day, every week, something like that, but a sort of monthly update with a TLC of a few creatures, I think would just bring so much life to the game. And personally, I think that would bring a lot of great to the game. And I think I would love to see a TLC Pass 4 from Wildcard for these reasons. It could breathe some life into ASA, and also on top of all of it as well, you're getting some new creatures which are great, and perhaps some more frequent updates on Survival Ascended. But what are the reasons against this? And one, I think, is the fact that perhaps Wildcard has a lot on their plate at the moment, especially with the mass downfall of Snail, and Snail will probably detach themselves from Ark at some point, as I imagine the company is definitely going to be going bust in whenever the amount of time runs out that they've got to repay whatever debt or whatever's going on with Snail Games. So I reckon that will dissipate, and perhaps it's a bit much to be asking for some more TLCs at this point, rather than just new maps coming out. But there's a lot of issues with the maps, and personally, a bit of extra time on them would be very useful. And I do think, perhaps these TLCs could be great in between them. But I can see where people are getting at, where they're like, no, Wildcard doesn't have time, they've got to focus on this. This is by far the most important thing. And this is where we get into what are the benefits of the modders doing it instead of Wildcard. And personally, it is just, the developers don't have to do the work there. The modders can simply do it for them, and if they want, they can implement it into the game, hopefully paying the modders what they deserve for that as well. Albeit paid mods do exist on ASA, but if it was to be implemented into the game afterwards, I know Paleo Ark won't be integrated into Ark, but if that was to happen, then I would hope that the modders would get paid. But essentially, the modders can do the work, and the community sort of creates what it wants itself, rather than the company doing what it wants. And while the company can do what it wants based on the community, generally it's seen that modders have more of a grasp on the community than the big corporate people, so it could actually be seen as better and more for the people, I guess you could say, coming from actual modders and not the developers of Wildcard, who tend to be in the player spectrum a bit less. I know that's a bit of a generalization, but it is an overall audience opinion, in my opinion. and I think people would prefer it coming from modders in that community aspect. But ultimately, at this point, any TLC which we can get is a great one, and seeing all of these creative things come from modders, and sadly none of the TLCs coming through on Wildcard's part of view, but you know, we are getting new creatures with all the maps these days, and seeing some of those are quite nice, and they're pretty useful, if I do say so myself personally. You know, Aberration's got good selection, but a lot of people seem to be liking the Dread Nautus, obviously, on Extinction these days. To be honest, absolutely fantastic creature in my opinion, and I will probably be doing a video on the Dread Nautus soon when I get around to it. But of course, Wildcard has been having that creature output through ASA, and I think some people as well are taking that as sort of a TLC per se, because these new creatures are being added, and now it's like, yeah, these are the sort of TLC dinos. Perhaps, you know, leaving the other ones, which maybe need a little bit more in the dust. But, you know, at least something is going on with the creatures in this game, and we are getting more dinos and things implemented, or upgraded dinos to say the least. Not the Pyromane, I won't be talking about that in this video furthermore, because I have a loathe for that thing, let's say. But also, Bob's Tall Tales has brought a sort of TLC to the game, even though it's more like a DLC. I wouldn't really say Bob's Tall Tales is an upgrade. Again, it's just more of an add-on, a DLC type thing. But some of the additions that it has added, I think, are quite cool and quite inventive, and it adds a good side story to keep people content. And it does come to another thing with, oh, why doesn't Wildcard do the TLCs? They're already doing quite a lot when it comes to Bob's Tall Tales and that other content and the new creatures. So there is a lot of new things being implemented into the game. I just feel like perhaps with TLCs interspersed between, it gives new life for those older creatures, and it gives the players more things to do while Wildcard is working and spending more time on the maps which are going to release further forward. Now obviously we have a roadmap for Survival Ascended now, so it's sort of set in stone what's going to happen, but I imagine it's all going to really change around again. They've done it once, they can very much do it all again, so we'll see what happens there really. But there's a bit more of a like set in solid stone with this roadmap, as opposed to the other one. So we'll see what goes on, but I can only hope that perhaps a few TLCs get interspersed in between. It's only my dream for 2025 and onwards, and I also want to know what you think, and what side of the argument are you on? Do you think the modders should do all the TLCs, or do you think Wildcard is responsible? That's it for today's video. Comment your thoughts below, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye. And give it up for our patrons, Ekaterina Puchkova and Karina Thorne, Dominic Maciejewski, sorry about that name, and everyone else that's on this list. All the people I've mentioned are paid members, and if you feel like that's something you want a shout out at the end of the video, go join the Patreon or become a paid YouTube member.